Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's February 21st. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And this was an interesting day. It was an FOMC day, so you really, from about 12 o'clock until it kind of settled down a little bit, maybe 12, I'm about a little bit after 1 o'clock. It didn't last long, maybe 20 minutes, 120, 130, somewhere in that range. And we had this huge trend down, but the market really only kind of peaked out right during that news event, the first couple of minutes or so. And then it kind of went sideways before it reversed. But uh, I had somebody send me their chart asking about a range day. This is not a range day. Let me back out a little bit further just so you can see. I mean, range days generally stay within the overnight high, which is here, and the overnight low, which is here. And you can see I mean, this is a 40-point trend up. This was a trend up. And it played out. Probably something to do with something the market didn't like about the FOMC news, and then it reverses and it was down the rest of the day. And this is a 50, 60 point move down. So this is not a range day. This is what I'd call a reversal day. It started out as a strong trend, and then by the end of the day, something changed, and the market reversed and headed the next direction. So this is definitely not a range day. So that trader, maybe he was showing me a different chart, but I could not. His chart was so small, I could not read the fine print on it. So maybe it was a different market. I don't know, but he didn't clarify that. So I assume that he wouldn't ask me without clarifying and saying, hey, this is a different market. But maybe he did. Sometimes people um, forget that I'm not a mind reader. Sometimes people will send me a chart and they'll ask a question, and they'll say that one blue bar right after the double bottom or something, and to them they're just thinking what they're looking at. I understand how it happens, but I have no clue. I could search all day and maybe not find the right spot. So if you do send me, always send me a picture and point out directly, what you're asking about if you ask me a question, a trading question. But let's back out a little more and talk about the trade. Well, actually, let me show you one more thing. Uh, we had some shorter term stuff in here, but we had a nice channel working up here. We had a break, move to a new high. Then we had a little trend working down, a break, move to a new low, and then we started higher again. This is where the news came out. And you just want to be flat then. And then we finally kind of worked sideways a little bit, and then we started working lower. And this was a pretty good trend down. I mean, I would say more than pretty good. If you called either one of these trades, you probably could have ridden it all the way to the bottom. You could have at least ridden it this full two legs down. And, there's one leg here. So look for a measured move on the next move. And you can see we actually went a little further and overshot the channel down here. Same thing going up. When we went up, there's your first move up, measure, and then your second move started right here. And you can see we almost had a perfect measurement. I think we missed it by a tick or two. There's the high, so maybe we might have missed about 3 or 4 ticks. Which if you can get it within 3 or 4 ticks every day, you're doing pretty doggone good. And I wouldn't expect to do any better than that. So that's about as good as it gets. If you can get within a point of the high on a 20-something point, 40-point day, you've done pretty good. So. But let's talk about the trades. And I wasn't sure about this. I drew this early. I wasn't too sure about it. Really, you get it off. You can, you got it off. You could, if you didn't have it early, you get it off these two and drag it down. Earlier, I think I drew it a little bit flatter than this. And then once we made this, I pulled it up here, adjusted a little bit, pulled it back down, and I may have had to adjust it just a little more when we bounced here. It wasn't until we got a couple more bounces up through here that I was fairly confident in it. Um, so sometimes it takes a little while to confirm a trend line. Even though it looks good, it may not ever confirm, and it may not be any good. So keep that in mind as I talked about yesterday. But anyway, we're working up here. Notice this is a new swing low. It's lower than that one. And you move up, you get a first entry short. So there's a second entry short after two pretty much measured legs up. I wasn't sure where the trend line was here. If you draw that line right off those couple of highs there and drag it down, um, we're not quite back there, but maybe it's going to be a spiking channel, and maybe it is a spiking channel, as you can see right there. So there's a couple of different ways as you could play this one. So, and maybe there's a midline, even in, maybe there's a midline. And you can see that's what it looks like. It looks like there's probably a midline in there. But anyway, there's a failed second entry short there, and if you played it like a spiking channel, I'd probably say this would be blue. But it's just there's just not a lot of price action here to know. But you do know it's a failed second entry short after two measured legs up. It's pretty close to the high, and there's some previous resistance there, so I made it green. But when prices try to go short again and then turn back up, generally when you see that failed second entry short, and what happens is a lot of traders are not sure, but when you see that next time, they say, okay, it's tried to go lower 2 times here and failed, just going higher, and you enter right there, and that's a easy scalp. You may not could have got in this one because it kind of gapped over, and so, but you could use a limit order and let it come back a little more. It would have come back and filled you here. But I wouldn't have a problem even almost entering above this bar, especially if you're looking at this like two-tiered, because now you got to bounce right off the lower trend line. It should be a little bit higher. And it's a breakout pullback, the whole, fairly bullish bar. It's not a perfect bar, and that's why I made it green. If that'd been a really bullish bar, I'd have said probably enter there. But you should have been in probably here if you were going to enter, or use this like a limit order and let it come back, and you could have got filled all the way back right at this midline or trend line or whatever it is actually is there, and that would have been a good entry. But I don't see another entry I really like here. You're getting too far away from the EMA for too long. It's way overdue to come back, and so I think you're better off just to wait on a correction. And so now you got a correction, you're moving down, you get a close outside, move to a new low, and it makes a new low there. There's actually a second entry long right here when it breaks higher, but look at all that overlap. Every one of those are basically dojis. I'm not going to enter there, but look what happens. It makes that move up, it comes back, makes a double bottom, and then gives you a nice, a much more bullish bar with a double bottom and a possible confirmation of that trend line. So I like going long there instead. And it actually comes back again. Notice this is a double bottom, so that's a new low, like a new low, first entry, second entry, and it confirms that trend line yet again. There's another chance to enter. Excuse me, I'm sorry. My throat's a little scratchy today. It's been raining here all day. It started out 75 degrees and it's in the 50s and raining like crazy now, so this crazy weather gets to me. But anyway, that was a nice chance to enter. Then it actually comes back once more, bounces off that trend line, but see, it's still working up this shorter term trend line, as you can see there. And I got that off these highs and just drug it over. And that's the first close outside, really. And it's a little breakout pullback from all that resistance over there. Fairly decent bar. I'm not crazy about it going long right into the high, but this has been a strong trend, and we're looking for a possible measured leg up, and so you might take that one. And then we just kind of course, we've had the break of this channel now and a move to a new high, so you might get a correction. But it seems like this trend is holding here and is still holding even right here. And notice how many times we try to go higher. Once, twice, 3 times. It's tempting to go short right there, but with this darker trend line, I think you're better off to wait on a long. And of course, that's a double top. So first entry, pull back second entry. That would be your signal bar. So you might let it break above that bar and maybe drop a limit order back to this other low, or maybe another tick back and see if you could get filled. I'm not crazy about it because everything is pushed through the EMA, and it could reverse, but we're probably going to retest that high because that's, we got enough test off that line to prove that that line's probably valid. And of course, it does make a new high, and then we get this correction. And this correction starts right about here, so about 10:30, and I would say it ends right about here, 11:30. So there's your about 1 hour. That's generally what you get, a minimum of about an hour correction. And if the trend's going to continue back, it will. And that's what happened. The trend continued on here. And notice this one played out. You're coming down. You get a break. Chance for a new short. I don't think I talked about this trade, but there's your high. Pull back first entry. Second leg down. Second entry. So there's a failed second entry long. Reversal type pattern. Nice bearish bar. I like going short right there. And if this turns out to reverse here permanently, you probably caught a good move. But it doesn't. He comes back, you get a break, and there's two legs up here. Notice that low. You push up, pull back, push up, and then you turn down. And this was interesting because it broke higher and turned and went right out the other side all in one bar. That's usually going to be good for a scalp. But there's a lot of overlap here. A lot of support down here with that little push down, and we had a move similar to this yesterday, and it had a much better looking bar than this, and it turned out to be a failure. So you got to be careful with those. Although this trend line hasn't played out yet, you don't have a new low yet, and you expect it to test that. So that's a little bit different yesterday in that case, where yesterday it had the break and then a new low, and then it reversed and had a little pull back up and had a nice little bearish bar. So this is slightly different. The trend has not played out yet, so expect it to retest this low. You just don't know if it will push with not being enough room to scalp out. You don't know if you'll get out of it before it makes a new low and bounces. That's the danger there. And that's why that's green instead of red. So, and we do push down, we fail, we come back, we get a first entry short, we push through the EMA, turn back down, get a failed second entry short. Nice bullish type reversal bar above the EMA. That's where you want to go long. That's a perfect reversal. That's what we're looking for. Look, that's the third touch of the trend line. 2 confirms that trend line. I like going long there. And that takes you up here into the, and look what happens from about 11:30 until the news comes out. Nobody's entering or moving. Nobody wants to do anything at that point. The market just waits, and that's what you start to see. And sometimes you can see it go for an hour or two before the announcement, looking just like that, just one bar after the next. So this is not too bad considering some days you will see. But just stay out of this. But notice even here, we're going sideways. You get a failed break lower. If you'd entered there, it would have played out just like usual. Then you get a failed break out the top before it makes a higher low and takes off. So even during news items, the price action still plays out. It just does. The problem is it moves so fast it's hard to read, and you can get whipsawed. So you're better off to stay out. But we're moving up here, and the news. By the time the news settles down, you've got some resistance up here. You're just kind of going sideways up here. And you can see that right across there. And then the lows are maybe right across there. And you got a little failed break lower. You got back in. Move up. You get a failed break higher. Push down. First entry long, pull back second entry long, and you get a nice second entry short right there. So I like going short below that big bearish bar right there. And you don't know it's going to do this, but it's off to the races. At that point, I'd just be looking for maybe a measured move like this. But we end up going much further than that. So if you catch that one trade, you make yourself, well, the lows here around 27, 29, 28, 29. And This is up here at 42. So that's 10 plus points you could make right there. And then watch what happens. It bounces off the lows. First entry, you get a close outside. It's not a real strong close, but we're starting to close outside that bar. Come up, now you get a second entry short. Those are two matching lows. That's right off the key entry point, confirms it. Your stop has to go a tick or so higher above this bar. Make that a little bigger. But I wouldn't have any problem going short right there. And then you're looking for another measured move, just like this. And so see if you can let it ride if you can. And that, where does that put you? Right down here at the lower of the trend line. We actually overshot that before bouncing. So that would have given you a great target. And that was pretty much what we had today. Not a lot of trades. The news, the FOMC announcement kind of makes a day like this takes away a lot of your trading. But you're smart to skip it. So, but you only need one or two trades a day, like we talked about before. And if you can catch one or two, especially when you get nice runners like some of these trades did, you don't need but one or two to make some really good money. So, but yeah, I'm just understand this is not a range day. If anybody confused it with a range day, even though it turned and traded down, notice how when we got down here, let me back out a little bit. Prices never really checked up right there. They just went right on through that. And this was strong move down. So was this. I wouldn't surprise me if we don't go back and test the lows from back on the original sell-off. Generally, you'll come back and test that again. Where were those original lows? It was down there somewhere in the 25. Maybe this was it, 25.30. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me to see us test that again or attempt to test that before we go any higher. But that's still way, more than 150 points or so down there. So we'll see. But it wouldn't surprise me if we tried to go back and test that again before we went any higher. But that's what I saw today. I'm not going to beat around the bush and drag it on. I hope you had a good trading day. We'll be back again tomorrow and wrap up our week. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And we'll see you next time.